Wouldn't it be amazing if you didn't have to suffer and starve your way to building the fit body of your dreams? If you could get that lean, toned, sexy body by actually eating more delicious food? Well, not only can you get your dream results that way, I'm here to tell you that you actually should get your results that way. Now, I know it sounds too good to be true, but this is a method I myself have used with hundreds of women of all different ages and backgrounds to help them shed body fat, build sexy muscle tone, and finally have the tone fit body of their dreams year round for life. And the way that we were able to achieve that is utilizing a very important mechanism called reverse dieting, which is starting to get more popular these days, but is still relatively unknown, or even if it is known, it's not really understood how to implement it correctly. So that is why I'm making this video. I'm going to be breaking down exactly how you reverse diet correctly so you can build the lean tone body of your dreams and keep it for good. So let's get into it. Okay, first off, I want to cover the 4 reasons why you would even want to do a reverse diet, which literally just means gradually increasing the amount of food that you eat. Okay, so reason number 1 is that you want to already experience body recomposition. So the lean tone body you want to have is nothing more than building quite a bit of muscle, but also taking body fat off. And I always say in my videos, one of the areas where women go so wrong is thinking that they just need to lose fat, they just need to lose weight, and so long as they do that, they're gonna have their dream body, but then they cut their calories, they do get smaller, but they still feel kind of soft and flabby instead of toned, snatched, defined, and firm. And that's because you also need to build quite a bit of muscle to get the look that you want. And in order to build muscle, you need to eat. You need to be giving your body plenty of resources to build something that is not there on your body right now, which in this case is the muscle tissue. So reverse dieting is going to help you with that initial muscle gain process, and at the same time, it's also going to help you to begin to lose body fat. A lot of the time, you can literally see so much change in your physique just from doing a reverse diet, which you can see in examples here of some of my clients who have been able to get that lean, fit, snatched body just by doing a reverse diet, just by increasing their calories alone, and also adding in a good weightlifting plan, which we'll get to in a second. Okay, the second reason that you would want a reverse diet is because it's going to increase your maintenance level, and it's overall just going to improve your bodily function. So if you're eating more food, your body's gonna be less stressed, you're gonna have way more energy to recover, your digestion is gonna be better, you're not gonna be so bloated, so tired. And then the fact that you are eating more and your body adapts to it and you're building muscle from it means that you're also speeding up your metabolism and you are just burning more calories automatically 24/7 on autopilot. So for example, if you have always been trying to just cut calories to get to your dream body and it hasn't really worked, and now you kind of average 1,500 calories a day, or maybe just that you're a busy woman and you don't really take the time to feed yourself enough, and again, maybe you only average 1,500 calories a day, imagine how much better it would be if you could already be getting lean, toned, feeling amazing, eating something like 2,200 calories a day, which is completely possible if you get your maintenance level to that amount via a good quality reverse diet. Okay, the third reason you would want to do a reverse diet is because it is going to prep you to have a very high quality fat loss phase. So although increasing your food via a reverse diet paired with good quality training is definitely going to help you with the initial fat loss and muscle gain that you need to have that fit tone body you want, you can only achieve so much fat loss just with a reverse diet itself. In order to lose a significant amount of fat, which I would categorize as if you're a little bit skinnier already, is going to be somewhere between 10 to 20 pounds, or if you're a bit bigger, you're a little bit more overweight to start with, it's probably going to be more like 20 to 40 pounds. In order to achieve that, you are going to have to do a calorie deficit, you're going to have to do a cutting phase after your reverse diet. So now this brings up the question, well, why wouldn't you just do a calorie deficit right away? Why do you have to do this reverse diet first? And the answer is, it's going to make your calorie deficit so much easier and so much more effective. And also, if you can already start to lose fat and build muscle tone without having to rush into a calorie deficit wouldn't you rather do that first? Wouldn't you rather start to get your initial results just from increasing your food and then kind of do the final icing, the final cherry on top with the calorie deficit from a higher calorie intake? So this is the exact signature method that I have used with so many clients to get them insane results. Like here, my client Kaylin, who went from eating only 1,400 calories a day all the way up to nearly 3,000 calories a day in her reverse diet. And then we did a cut to get her this insane transformation. Or like my client Bethany, who was only eating 1,500 calories a day when she started with me, we ended up going up to 2,400 calories a day in her reverse diet, and then did a cut where she only had to go down to about 1,900, 1,800 before we increased her food back up to 2,400 calories a day for her to have this insane transformation. Which brings me to the fourth reason you want to do a reverse diet, is because it is going to allow you to maintain the results you achieved in your fat loss phase. The 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds of fat loss that you achieved, you're now going to be able to maintain at a higher calorie intake with a more flexible, sustainable approach. Okay, so hopefully I have sold you on why you should even want to do a reverse diet and how incredibly powerful it is for getting you your dream body and actually being able to maintain it. Okay, so now that we've covered why you should want to do it, let's actually break down the 4 steps of how to correctly do a reverse diet. Okay, so the very first step is you need to figure out what your current intake of food is right now. What are you actually averaging in terms of calories and also in terms of macros, protein, fats, and carbs? So the only way to actually know this for sure is you're gonna have to track everything you do currently eat for about 5 to 7 days, and then you're gonna total up all of the food that you ate, divide it either by 5 or 7, however many days you tracked for, and then you're gonna get your average calorie intake from there. Now, I really strongly recommend that you go about doing your nutrition journey this way, because what a lot of people will do when they're like, okay, well, I need to do macros to tone up and lose fat, so I'm just gonna go online and find some macro calculator. The reason that this is not a good idea is because a macro calculator, a calorie calculator, is just going to suggest, it's just gonna guess like, okay, well, this makes sense for you based on your age, height, weight, and activity level. But the thing is, that is a huge generalization. Just because you are a certain weight and height does not necessarily mean your body is burning whatever amount of calories it's going to suggest. It is literally just taking an average of the entire population, which is not accurate and not customized to you. So the only way for it to actually be customized is for you to get data of your body as it is right now. Okay, so once you have your average calorie intake, I would say personally, if your current intake is any lower than about 1,800 calories a day consistently, off the bat, I would immediately add 100 to 200 calories a day to your consistent calorie intake. Because if you're less than 1,800 calories a day and you're about to start doing a weightlifting plan, which we're gonna get into in a second, you already are just not eating enough. You already need to start to support your metabolism, your hormones, your body to actually have enough fuel to be working properly and getting the exterior appearance, that lean tone physique that you want to have. Now, let's say you do already consistently eat somewhere between 1,800 to 2,000 calories a day or more, then I would just keep you where you're at right now. And the only change we're going to make is we're going to actually assign macros to the calories. So this one small change alone is already going to make a huge difference, because there's a big difference between just eating whatever amount of calories but not specifying the source of those calories versus actually assigning them to macros, eating the right ratios of protein, fats, and carbs. Okay, so I have done really in-depth videos about how to specifically customize step-by-step what your macros should be. So in today's video, I'm just gonna give you a really quick, fast version, so we're not here all day. But if you wanna get the longer, more lengthy explanation, then check out the video in the description, and I'll also link it here. So the first thing you're gonna set is your protein, and for a woman, this should be somewhere between 120 grams a day up to about 150 grams a day. There's really no reason, in my opinion, for a woman to have to eat more than 150. And I'd say the vast majority of the clients I work with usually eat somewhere between 130 to 140. So pick an intake that is gonna make sense for you. Now, the next thing you're gonna figure out is your fats. Your fats is usually gonna make up about 30% of your calorie intake. It can go as low as 25%, but most people definitely prefer having more fats than less. And also, most likely, if you start tracking macros, you're gonna realize that you were probably eating way more fat than this before. So even already bringing it down to just 30% is gonna be a big adjustment for you. Now, after you figured out what your protein and fats are gonna be, what you're gonna do is figure out how many calories you have going to protein, how much you have going to fat, add those two up, subtract it from your total calories, and the amount of calories left over is what is going to go to carbs. So again, I know that might be kind of confusing, so if you want the more thorough step-by-step explanation, check out the video in the description. Okay, so now that we figured out what your macro goal is, let's talk about the exercise plan, what you're going to pair with your nutrition plan to start being able to eat more food and not necessarily have to work out so much, but actually get better results than you've ever had before. So in order to get the toned body you want to have, you absolutely must be doing some strength training. Now I'll say that you don't necessarily have to lift weights in order to get results from a reverse diet and to lean out and tone up to some degree. You can definitely see some progress just doing things like yoga, Pilates, even just doing kind of like basic body weight workouts. But I will say you are going to get way more superior results if you lift weights. And that is because getting that toned look with all the definition, having everything look smooth, firm, and tight is going to happen because you have muscle on your body. You have built muscle tissue. And although you can build some muscle doing things that are a little bit more body weight based, you are definitely going to plateau really quickly because there's only so much resistance you can create with your body weight alone. I will say for your upper body, for your abs, for your arms, that is pretty decent with something like yoga or Pilates. But if you're really serious about building a bubble butt, getting really sexy toned legs, that is where you're going to need to lift some weights because you simply cannot challenge your lower body muscles enough for them to grow if you do not use external resistance, if you do not lift challenging weights. And that's because your legs and glutes are just absolutely massive muscles and they're not going to grow, get really shapely and toned if you do not challenge them with pretty significantly heavy weights. So this is where I would recommend actually going to a gym 3 or 4 times a week. If you're going to go 3 days a week, then do 2 lower body workouts and 1 full upper body day. If you're going to go 4 times a week, which is what I recommend, if you can do it, I would do 2 lower body days, 2 upper body days. And these workouts only need to take you about 1 hour. I mean, maybe a tiny bit more than that some of the time. But overall, you do not need to spend very long. The thing that you do need to do though is really make sure you are keeping track of your workouts. You are progressively overloading. You are lifting heavier weights over time. You are doing more reps over time. The quality of your reps are good. You're controlling the weight you lift. You're aware of the tempo, you're not just dropping the weight, you're slowly lowering the weight down, which is keeping the time under tension on your muscles, which is going to help them grow. These are all the kinds of things you're paying attention to. All right, so this is what you want to be doing, tracking your macros and pairing that with a strength training goal. Okay, so that is kind of your base level plan, step 1, step 2. So now let's talk about how you actually move through your reverse diet, how you make changes to your protocols based on how your body is progressing. So you're going to keep seeing better and better results by eating more food. Okay, so step 3 is actually evaluating every single week your body's progress. And based on the data of your body, you are going to make educated decisions about what the next step in your journey is. So the data you need to be keeping track of is number 1, weekly progress photos. Do this in good quality lighting with a very skimpy amount of clothing so you can actually really see the details of your body. Number 2, you need to be weighing yourself every single day, tracking this to the decimal point in an actual graph and paying attention to what's happening with the trend over time. And the third thing you want to evaluate is your biofeedback. So this is stuff like your digestion, your hunger levels, your energy levels, sleep, stress, where you are in your menstrual cycle, because all of that is going to affect how you look and what is happening with the scale. Okay, so since the goal of a reverse diet is to gradually increase your food so that your body is going to adapt and you're going to start burning more calories all the time, you're going to have a higher maintenance level of calories. This means we have to know when is it safe to do an increase in calories versus when is it not safe to do an increase. So first thing, usually an increase in calories in a reverse diet is going to be 60 to 100 calories. And this is going to be somewhere between every single week versus every other week. Some of the time though, it might be longer than that. Now again, this is assuming that you are being very consistent with your protocols. If you aren't, then none of this is really relevant because you don't actually have any consistent data to work with. In order to guarantee you get a specific result, you need to have actual data that you can work with. You can't just be guessing and hoping for results because that's how you get nowhere, unfortunately. So the 60 to 100 calories is usually going to be to your carb carbs, if it's 60 calories, it's gonna be a 15-gram carb increase. If it's 100 calories, it's gonna be a 25-gram carb increase. Now, every few increases, you're probably also gonna give a little bit to fat because you always want your fat intake to still stay around 25 to 30% of your intake. So as you bring your carbs up, this is going to decrease the percentage of your calories going to fat. So every now and then you have to give your fats a little bit of a bump up, about 5 grams more fat every couple of increases. Now, you wouldn't be increasing your protein ever so long as your protein is adequate. You do not ever need to change the amount of protein that you are eating. The only reason that you would be bringing it up in these adjustments you make of calorie increases is simply if you are not yet eating enough protein. Okay, so now that you know how much the increase is supposed to be, that 15 grams to 25 grams of carbs, usually 60 to 100 calories, let's talk about when you know it is safe to give this increase to your body and see better results. So I'm gonna categorize this as a green light, yellow light, and red light scenario. So the green light, where it's absolutely a go for you to increase your calories, is number one, if you notice that you are actually improving your physique in your photos. If you are leaning out and toning up in your photos, that's usually a really good sign that it's safe to increase your food. The second thing is, if you're seeing the improvement in your photos and the scale is either decreasing, you're actually losing weight, that for sure, if you're losing weight, would be a green light. Or if you're even maintaining your weight, but your photos are improving, again, that would definitely be a green light. And then the last thing with your biofeedback, if you are getting hungry and if your digestion is really good, you're not bloated, you're having good BMs, you have a lot of energy, you're feeling good, all those things together, that's really a good sign that you are ready for more food. And I'd say you could err on the higher side of the calorie increase, doing the 100 calories, potentially even a little bit more. Let's say if you're getting super hungry, scale is decreasing, those kinds of things, that's definitely when you would know, okay, I can give myself a good bit of an adjustment in food. And by the way, that's really normal that this will happen as you start to get consistent with your macros, as you're training hard in the gym. It's really normal that you might start to get a lot hungrier, which is a really good sign because it means that your body is burning through that food and your metabolism is speeding up. Okay, the yellow light as far as an increase, this is where it's like, maybe it's a good idea to increase, but it might also be a good idea to wait another week. That would be, let's say, your photos look still kind of the same. You're not necessarily seeing much change yet. And then the other thing would be, scale weight is maintaining, which, by the way, scale weight maintaining is actually a really good thing to achieve in a reverse diet, because if you're eating more food and you're not gaining any weight, that's fantastic. That means your metabolism is speeding up. However, if you're kind of seeing it maintaining, you're seeing your photos don't look that different. And then especially the third thing, if you're not necessarily feeling that hungry, you just kind of feel like, yeah, I'm full, I'm not stuffed, but I'm not really hungry. That's probably where I would say, okay, you know what? It's probably best that you wait another week before doing an increase. And then I would probably err on the lighter side of doing an increase, doing more like a 15-gram increase. I'd also say if you just did an increase the previous week, and these are the data points that you're getting, that's probably when I would wait at least one more week before making any adjustments. Okay, and then red light, when to definitely not do an increase, I would say would be if you are actually seeing that you're gaining some weight on the scale. And by the way, this is not a bad thing. A lot of the time people can gain weight in this process of achieving their dream body, but they can actually look way leaner and way more toned, which definitely is something my clients experience. Like my client Bethany, she gained 10 pounds on the right, but obviously looks way, way better now. However, it's just something to kind of take note of, like, okay, if the scale is going up, maybe we want to wait a little bit longer. And I'd say especially if that's paired with not really seeing improvements in your photos. And lastly, if it's paired with you feeling pretty stuffed, pretty full, feeling kind of like bloated and heavy, that's definitely when I would not be increasing food, because it's kind of indicating that the amount of food that you're eating right now might be already kind of pushing the limits a little bit. Now, let's talk about if those are the symptoms you're getting. If you're like, okay, I'm feeling kind of full, feeling kind of heavy and bloated, maybe I'm seeing the scale go up a little bit. Let's talk about how you troubleshoot if this is happening to get better results. Now, if that were happening with a client of mine, the very first thing I would be looking at would be, how is their sleep? How is their stress, right? Because if you are super stressed, you are not sleeping well, it's very possible that you are just retaining some water, you are having some inflammation, your body is not in a good state, it doesn't feel safe to release the water, doesn't feel safe to release the weight. So that's definitely important to look at. The other thing would be your menstrual cycle. Maybe you're ovulating. Actually, a lot of women can experience a little bit of bloat in that ovulation phase. And then of course, if it's right before your bleed or you're actually on your bleed, that can also explain it as well. Then the other thing I would look at is their training intensity, because if you are not really working out that hard, hard, if you're not really pushing yourself that hard in the gym, then all this extra food is not really getting put to use the way that it is intended. It's meant to be used as fuel for your performance in the gym, and it's also meant to be used as fuel to help build that muscle and speed up the metabolism. So if you're kind of underdoing your training, that could be a reason why you're feeling a little bit sluggish and bloated, because you're not really using the fuel. Then the last thing I would look at is also their step count. You know, if you're not really walking that much, if maybe you are training hard in the gym, but then you're sitting around all day the rest of the day, that could also be why you're just not really getting enough movement. You're not burning enough fuel overall. So just simply increasing your steps, you know, maybe doubling the amount of steps you do, that can definitely start getting things moving in the right direction. Okay, so then let's talk about the fourth step of a reverse diet, which is, how do you know when to stop your reverse diet and move into your calorie deficit, move into your cutting fat loss phase? So generally speaking, my golden standard for most women to finish the reverse diet before going into a cut, before going into a calorie deficit, is I want them to be eating at least 2,000 calories a day. And the reason why is because if we're gonna cut, that means we're probably gonna be dropping a good 500 calories from your intake, and potentially even more. Maybe it could be up to like 800 calories. So if you're any less than 2,000 calories, that means we do not have that much runway for you to drop your calories throughout the deficit. Now, generally speaking, the vast majority of my clients are able to go anywhere from 2,100 up to even like 2,600 calories a day in their reverse, and the entire time they're reversing, they're actually seeing good quality results. They're seeing their body shape and tone up. They're maybe even losing weight if they're a little bit heavier to start, just in the reverse diet itself. So I just want to say that even for short women, even women who are like 4'11", 5 feet tall, can still usually get to over 2,000 calories a day in their reverse diet. So usually I will get them to kind of that low 2,000, mid 2,000 calories before we move into the calorie deficit. Now, every now and then there may be an exception to this, where my absolute lowest to stop somebody in the reverse diet would be 1,800 calories a day. And that would probably be for a woman who's maybe a bit smaller, bit older, not very active, doesn't really have very much muscle right now, isn't able to train that much or very hard. Maybe she's limited to really basic equipment at home. That's the type of situation where I would give a little bit of wiggle room and say, okay, maybe we're gonna end your reverse more at like 1,800 before we move into the deficit to help shed the weight that you're really wanting to lose. All right, fam, so that is how you do a reverse diet correctly, and all the signs for you to be looking for to actually maximize this entire journey and to be able to get your dream results from this process. Now, granted, most people are going to have to also do a calorie deficit after the reverse diet, and then once they're done the calorie deficit, they're going to need to reverse diet out of the calorie deficit in order to maintain the fat loss they achieved in the deficit at a higher, more sustainable calorie intake. So I don't have enough time to get into all of that in this video. Honestly, it needs to be an entire separate video on its own, but I did cover that quite a bit in the last video I just made, so I'll link it here in the description as well. And let me know in the comments if you want to see a video from me really thoroughly breaking down how you go from reverse diet to cut and how you get out of the cut again. Now, I know that was a lot of information I just threw at you, so if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel like, oh my God, I don't want to have to figure this all out on my own, I don't want to have to make all the judgment calls of whether or not it makes sense to be changing my food, if I'm doing my workouts as well as I could be to see the best results, that's exactly why we have an online one-to-one high quality fitness coaching program. This isn't just your generic, okay, here's a workout plan, here's a nutrition plan, good luck to you. This is a very, very high level, handheld, completely customized through the entire process, ongoing feedback to finally achieve the body of your dreams, that lean, sexy, toned, strong body, and keep it for good. So if you're ready to finally get high quality one-to-one guidance where you literally will never have to go anywhere else, no other trainer, no other program ever again, this is a one-stop shop, then click on the link in the description, fill out an application. I would love to chat with you and see if it would make sense for us to work together. All right, fam, thanks so much for checking out this video. Now next, go watch this one here, which is the last video I uploaded that's breaking down a little bit more the calorie deficit process after a reverse diet to lose as much fat as possible and really reveal the sexy muscle tone underneath. So I'll see you in that video.